Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. This one's going to be video 4 in our Casper preparation series. My name is Gianluca, aka Dr. Calcagno, and this video is going to be all about going through an actual worked example of a Casper style question. I'll go over the situation prompt as well as the follow-up questions and hopefully show everyone a little bit about how and why I chose to answer the question in this way. Now, two things to keep in mind, the first of which being that you don't necessarily need to answer the question identically to me. You don't have to do word for word how I would answer this question, but hopefully you're able to identify some of the themes and some of the reasons why I'm saying certain things to answer these questions. The second thing you need to know is that when we go through my answer now, you'll see that I used all the proper punctuation and everything's capitalized and spelled properly. I had that luxury to get this ready for everyone right now, but on the actual Casper exam, just remember that as long as your grammar and spelling don't take away from what you're saying and aren't distracting, then you should be okay. Casper is not going to assess spelling and grammar errors. So we'll get to the question right now. We'll start off with the situation. You are a TA, teacher's assistant, for a university class. One of the students in the class that you are assisting in has been coming to your office hours often, and you are aware that she is struggling quite a bit. She is always very respectful and appreciative of your help whenever you explain class topics to her. One day, while invigilating an exam, you notice that she is cheating. She had a paper stuffed into her pencil case with formulas, which is against the course policy. Question number 1 is going to be, what do you do after first noticing that the student is cheating? Now, after reading a question like that, my answer went a little something like this. I said that in this situation, I must proceed carefully and balance my roles as both a tutor for this student and as an employee of the university. I need to keep in mind that while it is my duty to promote fairness for all students by reporting exam misconduct as an invigilator, doing so will almost certainly lead to many negative outcomes for this student, including possibly being removed from the course or other professional consequences. The first thing that I would do is not to arrive at any premature conclusions. Very important to say that whenever you can on the Casper test. It is possible that I have mistakenly identified the student as engaging in cheating. I would try to speak with a fellow TA/invigilator in an attempt to externally confirm my findings first. I would then ask for their opinion on how to best proceed. If, however, the student is confirmed of cheating, then it is my professional obligation to inform the student of our findings. I would make every attempt to speak with them in a semi-private area by subtly excusing them from the exam as to not draw attention from other students. I would then ask the student to explain the circumstances of the situation and to explain their point of view. Exams can be very stressful for students, and understanding the chain of events that led to the student to engage in cheating would be helpful in determining the next steps. Ultimately, I would need to explain to the student that while I will do my best to advocate for them, I would need to report their cheating to the professor and follow university protocol regarding next steps. If possible, I may need to advocate for additional assignments for the student if this became an option after speaking with the course professor. If, however, the student was not actually cheating and I was found to be incorrect, then I would immediately take full responsibility for the error and attempt to make accommodations for the student while working with them and the course professor. Now, personally, I'm a really big fan of using this particular example to show people the different intricacies of answering Casper questions, because you could really show that many of the competencies, the 10 competencies from Casper, do show up in this particular example. With my answer, I tried my best to incorporate collaboration, which is a big one that I feel like you could really fit into a bunch of different Casper questions, communication between myself and others, myself and the student, empathy for the student, equity for other people in the class, ethics and professionalism, me being the TA for the course, and finally problem-solving skills in terms of how to best move forward once we understood what the issue was with the student and the cheating and how to get them out of the exam room. Question number 2 is going to slightly expand on the original concept, but moving a few variables around and seeing how you would react if the question was slightly different, which is a very common presentation and pattern that you might see on the actual Casper test day. The question says, how would you react differently if you did not know the student? Keeping in mind that the original prompt was that you had a good relationship with the student, they came for tutoring and you had followed them as their TA. But to ensure fairness to all students of the class, as well as to fulfill my role as a professional, I would not react differently if it was a student that I did not know. It is important for me to remember that each situation is different, especially regarding circumstances that can drastically affect the academic trajectory of a student, such as in cases of suspected cheating. Therefore, it is crucial for me to remember to approach each situation with caution and to seek help from colleagues before deciding to take action. It is very important for me to not make assumptions about any student and to always hear their side of the situation as well. Ultimately, while I have a professional and ethical obligation to report the student if they are in fact cheating on the exam, this does not mean that I cannot make every attempt possible to advocate for their success in the future. In the case that the student is not one that I know, then I could also make an attempt to reach out to their TA to explain the situation. Regardless, I will need to communicate with the student first and involve them as much as possible with any actions or additional supports that I were to involve. To me, question number 2 is really trying to understand if you could remain empathetic and fair and not showing favoritism, remaining impartial to the situation, being able to take all the different sides into account, and acting consistently with everyone's best interests in mind. And finally, question number 3 that I think really gets at the concept of self-awareness asks, how does the concept of a power imbalance apply to this situation? When I answered this one, I did keep in mind that usually by the time students get to the third question, you're running out of time and you are trying to write as much as possible. I tried to give myself about a minute to answer this last question here. And I said that in this situation, the student is very clearly on the unfavorable end of a power imbalance. And it is likely that my accusations of cheating would have immediate consequences regardless of the student's explanations for their actions. This is something that I, as a TA, would need to keep in mind before deciding on any actions, especially because accusing someone of cheating is a very serious allegation and could have long-lasting consequences for the student's future. I must remember to keep the student's point of view and well-being in mind, since there may have been several extenuating circumstances that led them to cheating on this test. In an attempt to minimize this power imbalance, I would try my best to communicate with the student and seek aid from my fellow TAs before proceeding. So those are my answers to this particular question. If you've watched the other videos in this series so far, you'll see that I really tried to implement as much as what we've been talking about in the past. Identifying where the conflicts are, seeing different sides, understanding my role, and understanding supports that are available. Always collaborating when possible, always keeping the best interests of as many people in mind as possible, and not violating any set boundaries or rules that are already put in place for you. I do think that it would be the biggest trap to appear too empathetic on this question and not report the student for cheating if they were in fact cheating, because you do have a professional obligation. As a TA, you are hired to do a job, and I do not think that it would be in your best interest applying to a program to, on the Casper test, show them that you would not adhere to the rules of the institution. So this is how I would answer this question. Best of luck to everyone studying and getting ready. We will see you in the next video. It will be video number 5, and then that one will be going over an actual worked example of a personal reflection type question. So we'll see you all then, and everyone take care.